We're going to get started. So, hey everyone, thanks for coming to Assessment Ideas to Enhance Student Learning Online. And this is actually a session that I've run before in a face-to-face setting with teachers. And I really didn't have to alter much of it for an online learning focus. And that's because the tools that I'm going to share with you today are primarily web-based. So you will have the opportunity as you're distributing and creating online learning experiences for your students to try some of these tools and throw them in your toolbox, in your bag of tricks. And when you feel like you need to mix it up for kids, if you feel like they're getting kind of bored or stagnant in what they're going through, which totally happens, and it's not any teacher's fault. I think about online classes that I've had as an adult, and when I had to go in and do the reading and write 2 comments in a discussion board week after week after week, it got to be a little bit tedious. So that's what these tools are all about. They're here to kind of mix it up and shake it up for you. But if you have not been to any of my sessions before, hello, my name is Lynn Hilt, and I am a program administrator at BCIU in the Office of Professional Development and Curriculum. We have done a handful of sessions, tutorials. We've built 2 resource websites for you, for our county teachers, to hope to support you through this. And we know that with your expertise and your drive and your professionalism, that you're going to create some awesome learning experiences for your kids out there on the internets as best we can in this time. There's a lot of unanswered questions still in a lot of places, and we have a lot of concerns about kids without access and students with special needs, how we meet their needs. So hopefully some of these tools can be thought of in ways to provide accommodations and different ways of approaching content too for some of your students. So I'd like to start off by, again, sharing the link to these slides. You'll have access to the slides for forever. You can add them to your drive and reference them whenever you'd like to. And I'll show that again at the end of the session. So I like to start this off not by jumping into the tools, but to think about assessment and what it is and what it means. And honestly, now it means even things that are different than we thought of it in a classroom setting. So you can add your ideas either in the chat, or if you have the slides pulled up, let me go to our shared Padlet wall, because I'll put this in the chat for anybody who's not actually in the chat. These are the slides, and this is the Padlet. I like to do like demos in my sessions. So if you want to jump out and try Padlet if you've never tried it before, or you can just answer these questions in the chat box too in Zoom, no worries. How do you define assessment, and what are some types of assessment that you're accustomed to working with? How might assessment look different in an online learning space versus traditional methods that you've used? And in your opinion, based on all of your years of expertise, which types of assessment do you think will be most critical during this time, in the time that students are out of our schools and in their homes? So just take a couple seconds, take a minute and a half to think about what assessment is, how it might look different in an online learning environment, and which types of assessment you're going to rely on most during this time. Let's check out, see if anyone is able to post to Padlet if I set it up properly. Attribution. You should be able to do it. So if you double click, that'll make a new post. So we have some ideas coming in the chat. Assessment by observation. So a lot of anecdotal assessments. That will take a different spin in an online environment for sure. So assessing students as they're doing the task. So that's a good comment. Anybody else? Formative assessment will be crucial, agree. We're not going to be able to rely on, midterms, giant end of the unit assessments without knowing if our kids are with us and which kids are with us. It's going to be a lot more difficult to see, are people staying on, are the kids staying on track with about where we should be? And so how are we going to know that? So let me see. I don't know why the double clicking isn't working. Don't know that. Sophie was able to write there. Privacy. Sure. Oh, maybe we'll change that. Here we go. Sorry about that. I forgot the can write. Now you can write. If you refresh this, you'll be able to write on the Padlet. That's my authentic test. Check your stuff before you share it. Thanks, Kayla. Any other thoughts, questions? Let me put the questions back up as you're writing. How do you define assessment? What are some types of assessment? How might it look different? If somebody wants to tackle that one, think about something you do now with assessment and how it might look different in a virtual space. So we can turn to online prescriptive resources. So we can turn to resources that will be reflected of what the kids are doing, and it will respond to what they're doing. It will respond to their answers, and then it will kind of adjust that way. So one of the things that we could do if we can't observe students right in front of us, as we might normally, we could observe them in video type conferencing spaces, or if they submit video, like someone mentioned Flipgrid, so that was a great idea. My daughter's school she's only in preschool, but they're also running a lot of virtual sessions for us. Her teachers have offered things like one-to-one meetings with the kids, and so we're all kind of thinking outside the box right now. Someone mentioned the importance of pre-assessing, which in this situation, I think especially is really important because we now have this kind of unique opportunity to differentiate in a digital way. And for kids who are at home, who maybe they already know the majority of the standards in the next math unit, they already have mastery of it because they've already learned it. They might be able to move on to a different activity or a different set of content standards that are more challenging for them. So relying on pre-assessments. Formative assessment through lessons may become more essential than summative. Yeah, the parents may be helping. Do we really know who's taking the assessment is a question that has also come up, which is very interesting. So these are all just things I wanted to kind of bring to your attention before we start jumping into the tools. Think about the purpose of the assessment. Why are we doing it? Are the practices that we're using equitable across the board for all of our students? Or do we have to make accommodations or modifications for students in this time, especially? And how do you think what we do now is going to influence what we continue to do once school comes back in session? And so these are all like big picture things I just think are really interesting and provocative to bring up. But for me, something I really believe to be true about assessment is that it is a partnership. And this is an opportunity. I'm actually going to turn on closed captioning for you. This is an opportunity to invite students into the process versus it being just something we hand over to them and say, all right, you have to do this quiz, you have to do this assessment. Giving them a voice and choice and options, and helping them take more ownership of what they're showing you in terms of what they've learned, and they can decide how they want to show you what they've learned. Just because of the wealth of tools that are available in a lot of situations, we can open that up for kids to be more invested in the assessment process. So that is kind of an exciting thing that we can take advantage of during this time. We're going to look at so many tools today, and it is tempting to throw some of these really cool bells and whistly type things at our kids, especially in an environment where we're doing everything digitally, or most of it digitally. But please know that when you invest time in bringing one of these tools in, take the time to use the feedback that students are giving you. So for example, if you're pushing out a number of things through a Seesaw journal or through a Socrative activity, and you're just doing it to have kids do it, it won't be as meaningful as if you carefully select just a smaller number of tasks that really help kids think deeper about the content. So think about the ways in which you're using it and the purposes of the assessment process. As you're thinking through these tools today, you'll be able to think on a broader scale about what's coming up in the week or the month ahead. And I'd love to be able to say, and when this is all over, May 30th, but I don't know that we're there yet. So I would be thinking for the remainder of school year, just planning ahead, and even throughout, the summer and into next year, how can some of these processes carry over and help you think about the ways that we're doing learning right now, and make an influence in the future. So when we think about the types of assessment, and you'll use all three of these in your online learning endeavors, but are we looking at assessment of learning, where essentially the teacher is the assessor? Are we looking at assessment for learning, which we know can be very powerful to help the teacher make decisions? Or, like I said earlier, are we helping kids be more invested in this process? And can we get them to the point where they are using assessment as part of their learning process? They're owning the self-monitoring pieces, the self-reflection as they're working through. Our kids are not going to naturally be able to do this right now. But as they get more comfortable in the online platforms, they're going to need to learn that they are going to have to do this themselves more often, because we're not going to be there every step of the way. A parent isn't going to be there every step of the way. They're going to need to do a lot of self-monitoring. So it might be something that this opportunity really builds up that chance to build more assessment as learning into the process. So we can think about that moving forward too. So let's check out some of the tools. This is why you're here today. There's so many fun things that are out there. They range from very simplistic types of quizzes to things that are integrated in G Suite, to things that require no accounts, to things that require accounts for everybody. So I tried to be pretty explicit about that in the slides. And I have a number of things to demo for you. But as you're shopping around today and looking at these different options, just think about the purpose. What is the purpose of using this? Maybe you are going to use it for like a full-blown assessment purpose, or maybe just to improve engagement in a student interaction space, or maybe it will be something you could run synchronously if any of you are ever going to do a synchronous meeting with classes. Maybe it's just something that you use to provide feedback to students, and ultimately you have to decide based on your district's goals for grading during the school closures. Is it something I'm going to actually give a grade and contribute to a grade book, or is it something that I'm just using to see how kids are doing, like a check-in? It's different in every district in terms of what the guidelines are, what the mandates are from your district admin. So lots of these tools are so flexible and versatile that no matter what your end goal is, you can align the tool with your purpose, which is kind of nice. So we'll start with some G Suite tools. And one of my personal faves, of course, is Google Forms. So if you've not used Google Forms before, it is part of the G Suite for Education suite of apps that you have access to as a Google for Education school. And essentially you get this fancy little form editor when you start a new form. You build out questions and answers, and you can view all the student responses in the form itself, or you can send all of the data to a Google Sheet if you'd like to do more with that. Now, if you're following along on the slides, I actually made a short little quiz for you. If you've not taken a form, although at this point in time, I find it hard to believe that someone has not taken a form. We've used it just so often for everything, which is great, you know. Let me jump back to my chat box and put you, there's the link to the form if you want to play along and take the quiz with me. All right, so this is just a 5-question, very simple, nonsense, googly trivia quiz. But I'll show you what the teacher portal looks like. We'll see if anyone took my quiz yet. Responses, none thus far, but maybe somebody will take my quiz and give me some data to look at. But from a teacher perspective, this is what, ooh, here it comes. So as soon as someone clicks submit, we saw an answer come in real time. So we now have a summary of responses. Now we have 2 responses. The question, we can see the summary, the average in the class, and then I can see as the teacher what questions are frequently missed, so that if I have to provide supplemental instruction or review of some kind. So you can see them coming in real time. You can see how easy it is just to submit your information. I can view question by question, or I can view individual, I won't rat that person out, individual student scores as well. So you can see what they had correct and incorrect. Now, what the quiz that you took was actually a self-scoring quiz, and I set that up with Google Forms. If you're new to Google Forms, by the way, I'm going to be running a session Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Oh, yeah, Wednesday, April 8th at 11 o'clock. And you can join me for that. The only topic is Google Forms. So we're going to go through start to finish, making a quiz, making a form, how to share it, how to look at the data. So mark your calendar for that if you want to learn more. But what was I showing you? Oh, yes. Here in the settings, this has a quizzes tab. And this is where you set up all of your specific criteria for the quiz, that you want it to be self-scoring, that you would like students to be able to see their score right away, that you would like them to be able to see missed questions or not, or correct answers or not. So you basically have control over all of that. So the responses have come in. I see the summary. 1.8, guys, that's pretty low. Usually when we do this, we're at least over 2. So I'm going to need somebody else to take this quiz to get us up to a 2 average. So I wanted to demo that for you today. Let me get back here. So like I said, next week, I'm going to run a Google Forms session just about Google Forms. On this slide in particular, there is a Google Forms cheat sheet. There is a link to my Google Forms resources. The question came in, can we use locked mode at home? And that is a good question. And if your students are using school managed Chromebooks at home, then you might be able to. But if they're on their own devices, no. It has to be a school managed Chromebook. And I'm not sure, though, if they're not on a district network, if it will still work. So that is a good question, and I can get back to you on that. But if they're using district-owned managed Chromebooks, that might actually work. A question also came up about the closed captioning. What I'm using for closed captioning is Google Slides. When you press present, it has its very own closed captioning button. and you just press that and you go. It's good for when I'm on a slide, but it's not good when I jump out to the web, for example. So when I put this on YouTube for other people to watch, I like to use YouTube because you can trigger on closed captioning for the entire video, not just when I'm in slides. That is a good question. All right. So that's Google Forms. Google Sheets. I know you're thinking like spreadsheets are super boring. I don't want to use Google Sheets, but it has a lot of capabilities in terms of the way that it interacts with other online services. And one of those services is called Flippity, flippity.net. Now, every time I go to Flippity, there is literally a new activity waiting for me every single time. Flippity is a a totally free, totally online activity creator that works with Google Sheets templates. So there are things like flashcards. You can build front and back. It can read to the student.
Kuala Lumpur. The year of Columbus is 1492.
I'm not sure if my audio is coming through or not, but it is reading for them. They can do lists side by side. There's audio support built in here.
1492.
They can practice by typing it out. There's matching. There's word cloud. So if you're looking for some like factual types of practice, definitions and vocabulary, pictures and vocabulary, you can add pictures to the cards as well. So here is Flippity Quiz Show. I love this for assessment. I love it for a couple of reasons. One is because it's way more fun to like have a quiz at home with your family, or if you're running a synchronous class activity and you're all coming together in Zoom, you could project this and the kids could say, all right, I want bees for 200. What is the middle part of a bee's body called? And then you can reveal the answer, and then it grays itself out. And then you can give a point for the team that was, or actually it does that on its own. Yay, 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 yay. So that's a good time, and it automatically keeps score for you, which is cool. So that's the quiz show. There's a scavenger hunt. There's manipulatives. This is brand new. I never saw it before, but it's essentially like you can do drag and drop of things. So this is a sorting activity with the character name from The Office. And then, I mean, I don't know who's who. Oscar, is he the funny one? Yeah, so you can just sort, drag and drop, and you have that there. That's new. There are also printables. So if you're turning some things digital, there are things like word scrambles, crossword puzzles. There's a progress indicator, a matching game. There is a certificate if you want to build certificates for your kids. So there's tons of things to explore here. I also like this for littles. They can listen to their own personal spelling word or vocabulary word list. And it spells it for them. And then they can practice and take a little quiz. So that's there. So the way this works is every activity has its own template in Google Sheets. When you click make a copy, it will then force a copy into your Google Drive. It gives you the pretend activity that they had in there, and you just use your side A and then your side B. You just type right over top what's there. You pick your card color, and then all the way at the bottom of the sheet, there is a space that says get the link here. And after you publish your spreadsheet, that's how you get the activity link. And you can take that activity link and you can put it in Google Classroom, or you can share it on Google Sites or in Schoology, or however you're sharing with your students. So that is all about Flippity, which is good times. All right. The other googly thing I wanted to mention, if you're using Google Classroom, on the classwork page, you have Google question built right in. So you can ask a multiple choice or a short answer question right in the classwork page. So it's essentially like a ticket out the door or a pre-assessment. And then you can also build a quiz assignment right in Google Classroom, and that will attach a Google Forms quiz to your assignment that you're pushing out. So it's essentially marrying that into one task. So I linked some directions for how to do that in Google Classroom. And we also have 2 Google Classroom tutorials in our on-demand website that you can watch if you're new to Classroom and you need more info about that. So those were the Googly highlights, and I would like to show you a couple of these online interactive. A lot of them are gamified, to be honest with you, which I think are very motivating. I had to laugh at my son. He's in first grade, and one of his new platforms to use has a system where they receive a number of stars for the number of books that he reads and questions that he answered, and he was so motivated by it. Like, it totally blew my mind, because I just think, like, oh, that's silly, like no kid's gonna work for stars. He really works for stars. But the other thing is too, he will tire of that in a short while. So that's why it's nice, even though this list is very overwhelming, it's nice to just keep things in your back pocket and kind of change it up every now and then, especially in these online spaces. So let's jump into some of these. My disclaimer that I always share, and that we share on the distance learning website for the IU, is that some online tools, even if they're educational, they do either require explicit parent permission for use, or they do not allow students under 13 years old to use. And so as you're researching these, you should read the privacy policies. I always go to the terms of use, and I always do a search for the number 13. And it should automatically take you to their section of their policy stating whether kids can or can't use it. Now, all of the ones that I'm going to share with you are designed for students. But I always urge everyone, if you need help with that, you can reach out to me, because legalese is not really fun to read, or to your tech department, or maybe you're dealing with a list of programs you're allowed to use and not allowed to use. Just think through that before you assign some things to kids. And there are opportunities for kids to interact with some of these games, and they require no login whatsoever, which is the most ideal. So the first one is Kahoot, and you've likely played Kahoot at some point in a face-to-face setting. Maybe someone in a professional development session put together a Kahoot for you. But Kahoot is just a really easy platform to get started, where the instructor can lead the game. So again, if you're in a synchronous setting, you'd want to do it that way. But you can also set Kahoot games to be self-paced. So if you have a 10-question Kahoot game that you want to push out to your kids, you would design that to be self-paced, and then you can push it out through any of their integrated services like Google Classroom. And there's a whole bank of resources that you can pull from. So lots of teachers donate their Kahoot games to the library in there, and you can check out what they've already created and use it for your own. They are offering free access to their full range of features to schools that have been closed due to COVID. So you can see, click through that and apply to get the full access and all that good stuff. But the ways to play are essentially, and this is what it looks like on a big screen, but you provide a PIN number to a game. The students enter the PIN number. They come on in. There is a tutorial about how to host a distance learning game of Kahoot. All of the participants will respond to the questions on their own devices. You can show point leaderboards and have a winner, and it's really fun. But there's also a single player mode if you just want to do practice. So it takes you through kind of, do you want to host it live? Do you want student-paced questions? These are all the types of questions that are available. You can do quizzes, true, false. You can have images as the answer. So even if you teach primary students who are still learning their reading skills, you can make pictures the answers, and they could choose. There's puzzles, there's open-ended questions, there's lots to do there. So this is very helpful space for you in terms of diving into Kahoot from a distance learning standpoint. And thinking about collaborative spaces and where to bring kids together, I think of two places that I go to gather or provide like an online note board space for students. One of those is called Lino, And Lino, as you can see in the screenshots there, you can design it to be like an interactive type of grid or a matrix if you want to do a sorting activity. You can share photos, so you can set up, it's essentially like a digital bulletin board and kids can bring photos in. You can have sticky notes, you can link to the web so they can attach websites. So this is like a brainstorming board where students are co-creating project work together. So there are a lot of options with Lino. It's free. I've never paid for Lino. I've used it for a decade. I've never had any restrictions placed on it. And if you set it up a certain way, it will not require any kind of student login, and they can go in and post. Now, the activity we did first thing in this session was on Padlet. Padlet is more of an educational focus in terms of that's how they market themselves. And with a free Padlet account, you can get 3 free walls. That's actually a picture of the wall. I did an assessment session in Perugia, Italy in September. And so if you can't read any of those responses, that's why, because they're in Italian. But same thing, you can attach a lot of different content to Padlet. Let me jump to our Padlet here. When I double click, I have the option of uploading a file. I can add a link, a URL. I can search the web for something. There's videos, there's GIFs, which everybody loves, and all that good stuff. I can take a picture with my camera. I don't know if it'll let me use my camera because I'm using Zoom. And then you can add all these things, record your screen, draw, record your voice. So if you're looking for some accommodations pieces, if you want to pull in a PDF and then you want to record your voice reading it for one of your students, you could do that right in a Padlet space. So this goes far beyond like the just like a sticky note board. They've just become so much more interactive and feature rich over, you know, the last couple of years. So just thinking outside the box with ways to use that. Then in terms of other board type spaces, these are some of my favorite spaces for kind of written interaction, hand drawing interaction, problem solving interaction. Aweb Whiteboard, AWW, is completely free. You simply visit the Aweb Whiteboard. It'll give you a link that you can share. If you'd prefer to not make an open link, you can add students by email address, but then you're basically taken to this empty space where you can do collaborative drawings or text work or sticky notes or whatever it is you're figuring out. And the same thing with Google Jamboard. You could bring an image in and you could have students annotate it. You could bring a math problem in or a grid, or if you take a snapshot of some sophisticated math work that you're doing, you can bring that in and students can draw right on top of it. That was just a really simple thing that I drew as an example. Now, Jamboard is an app that is in the Google for Education suite. So you can actually find that through your Google Apps. If you can't, it's because your Google for Education administrators didn't turn it on yet, but maybe they didn't know about it. So you just shoot somebody an email in the tech department and ask for it, and maybe they'll decide to not do it. But if you have the chance, it's a great space, and they all save to your drive, so you can reference them later. All right, so those are 2 other collaborative spaces that I like, Aweb Whiteboard and the Jamboard. There are a few Quizzified options that are out there. One of those is Quizizz, and I can never remember how to spell it, if it's 1 Z and then 2 Zs. But you can run interactive quizzes that are student-paced, and instead of like Kahoot, if you're familiar with Kahoot, the question in a synchronous activity is only posted on the presentation screen and the kids only see the response colors. But in Quizizz, they see the question and the answers on their own devices. They get immediate feedback if they're right or wrong based on, they give them like a little meme. And if you don't like the memes, you can turn them off. There are multiplayer options. You can assign quizzes as what they call homework, and you can give them multiple days to complete them, or you can assign due dates to it. And you can choose if you like to use the student rankings and a leaderboard if your students are motivated by that type of thing, and if they have nice competitive spirits. And so really your options are we can play it live together, or the instructor can assign it. And this also has a link to Google Classroom and other LMSs. So if you're using Classroom, you can simply find the quizzes game or design one that you want to use and push it out to your classes. This link says try a game yourself. And if you pop out, this one was already designed by somebody in the library. So it says play the game. This is all about G Suite, so I hope I don't blow it. You can hear there's background music. Google Docs is Google version of Word. Very good. Now, did you see the countdown timer? I think I get more money the faster I go. This is a free version, so there was an ad. So that's Google Forms. I got 600 for being correct and an extra 400 for being fast. What's the G Suite equivalent of PowerPoint? So I'm not going to do this whole quiz, but I am at the top of the leaderboard, which makes me happy. Okay, so that's quizzes. So that's what it can look like in an assigned mode, which is pretty cool. All right, good times. More good times, Quizlet. And maybe you're already using Quizlet. I know a lot of schools are, but essentially with a list of content, I think a lot of people who are doing like vocabulary work and concept work are using Quizlet to help kids kind of review and practice. Essentially, you're creating little study sets, and with those study sets, students can do a variety of different Quizlet activities, everything from flashcards to writing out what they've learned to spelling, if it's a spelling-focused activity. There's a quiz-like test, matching. The gravity activity is when students have to answer the question as dangerous things are falling down at them from above. And you can do live games as well. There is a demo game linked here if you want to try it out. This is the World Capitals demo. It says, in this demo, you'll play on Team Tiger, and you're playing against 2 computer players. And this demo game will mirror what students see on their screens. So, do you have the match? Cairo. So do I have the capital, or the Cairo is the capital of Egypt? Do I have it? Yes, I do. Okay, I have the match. After you clicked, everyone on your team can see that you had the match and you're 1/12 of the way to victory. So we're playing as a team, me and Alec and Crown, trying to get all the capitals. Who knows this? Is it this? That's bad. I'm really bad. Okay. So I had the wrong answer, so I got immediate feedback. And that's how Quizlet works. And I'm going to stop doing the World Capitals game now. But there is a free 30-day premium trial for teachers if you've not used it before. And for the whole year, it's only $36. Which I know is a lot of money right now, but it's also not compared to some of the things and how much some of the other tools are cost in the hundreds per year. So if you dive into free Quizlet and you think your students would really get a lot of use out of it, it might be a good investment for the premium version. Another quiz based activity feature is Quizalize. You can include, you build your own question sets, or you can borrow from the gallery. All of these activities have their own gallery of things that people create for them. It's so nice. There's also a math mode, and I know sometimes math people are discouraged by how difficult it is to translate math language into digital format. In situations like this, they actually have a formula input button, so you can grab special characters and things like that, which is really nice. After the Quizalize activity is finished, you can pull a report about how your students are doing. It will highlight which topics and subtopics are in need of review or are the strengths of your class. And so that has a very rich kind of feedback data feature that you can look into. It also has curricula from a number of different states, and the Pennsylvania Academic Standards had activities already pre-built for them, as well as our assessment anchors and eligible content. So while I'm sure we just want to forget about all that because the PSSAs were canceled, we can't do that. But if you're looking for standards-based work, that's in there as well. There are a couple of links to resources for you, and there is a premium free subscription available for schools that are affected by the school closures. Quizalize looks like this. Which planet is closest to the sun? Yeah. I get dings, I get stars. I see how fast I answered and my score. How many phases of the moon are there? This goes back to 6th grade science, Mrs. Stern. It's all coming together. By the weathering of rocks, grass, flowers, and trees. I mean, all of them, maybe? So that's what Quizalize, this little quiz looks like. It's very friendly, kind of reduces distractions, focus on the content, get through that. Quizalize. You can try any of these. I linked to all of the activities so that you can go back and try them and see how you like them. Okay. Socrative, or some people say Socrative, but I don't. This has been around for quite some time. It has undergone a couple of upgrades in terms of the way that it looks, a little bit cleaner. The thing about Socrative is that you have one account to log into, the teacher account, and then you provide the students with a specific link to log in, and you are given a specific room number. So they will enter your room, and then whatever activities you create are held in that room. So students actually don't need accounts to log in. But if you're doing any kind of data tracking or assessment, feedback, monitoring, you will want to make sure that you can figure out their name or like a first name and last initial or something like that. If you're just doing it for practice and for fun, then that's fine. But in terms of assessment, if you're looking to use these reports, because they do have nice reports that you can download and look through, make sure that they're identifying their name. There are quizzes, there's polling. A space race is when teams compete to finish the quiz with the most amount of points. And so you essentially break up your class and they race to the finish. They have built-in exit tickets. And then if you just want to ask a quick question, like a true, false, or a multiple choice, you can just pull one of those together really quickly. I linked to the user guide. This is web-based, but there are also apps for teachers and students if a lot of your students are using tablet devices during this time. So that is, that's Socrative in a nutshell for you. In terms of something more like a general feedback, if you want to get like a whole group to come together and give a response around something, I love Mentimeter for that. And I've used it in really large groups of like 500 or so, and it's worked really, really well. So if you're doing class surveying, or if you would like your students to go through and just experience and make a word cloud out of things that they're feeling or challenges that they're having, you can do that. Mentimeter is where they will go for that. I already pulled yours up, actually. So I will send you to try this if you wish. You actually go to menti.com. If you go there and then type in this code 956132, so menti.com, and enter that code 956132. You're taken into this space. It says, use one word to describe how you're feeling about online learning, because of course we're going to lead with relationships and emotions during this time. So yes, somebody's excited. That's awesome. You can do yeah, look at that. So excited's getting bigger. And tired, no. Excited's getting bigger because more than one person responded excited. And that's what you're going to see happen in your in your cloud. Yeah, positive. Flexible, good, good. You can be honest. This is anonymous, right? So Mentimeter is there for you to try. There is a free version of it. I believe you're limited to 3 presentations of sorts when you're in the free account. I've used the free wait, excited, scared, afraid, yes, all of those emotions are now a new emotion that you have as an awesome teacher. You guys are going to do great. This is I've been in this space for a long time, so obviously it's easy for me to say this. I'm very comfortable in online learning spaces, and eventually you will be too. It happens. And if you're in the space where you need help, that's what we're here for. Lots of awesome teachers out there sharing stuff for you. So that's Mentimeter. And you can have unlimited audit. If you wanted to do a Mentimeter with the whole 7th grade of your district, you could do that. Students don't have to log in. There is a free version available. You can export your results. So if you're trying to get a feel for how students are doing and it's more of a perception survey, you can download all that. So that's available for you through Mentimeter. We don't have too many more here to go in our session. We're down to about 10 minutes left. One of the services that is really pretty intricate in terms of what it can do, it's called Formative. And if you visit goformative.com, the little screenshot here is showing how in a synchronous session, if a teacher pushes out something, they can ask students to respond in real time through a variety of different means. So what you're seeing in this little clip is that students had to draw a circle and calculate, I think, diameter or circumference or something, and they were actually drawing it out, and in the teacher portal, you could see them working in real time. So it does sync to Classroom, Google Classroom as well. If you wanted to try it, you certainly could. Let me see if this worked. I made my son a student in my class, and let me just pull that up here, see if I'm gonna log in. I made him I saved it. Okay. So on his end, this is a formative lesson, and it's about the water cycle. So there are a number of different kind of questions here that I could go through. I was scrolling down through the beginning this morning, but it says, it has instructions from you as the teacher. Let's start about talking about how much water is available to you. Before you continue, get the graphing sheet from your teacher, which we're not gonna be able to do, or click this one to print it out on your own. So they linked to a graph that I'm gonna need, okay? So this might be like a multi-day activity or a multi-lesson activity, or at least like the only thing they're doing that day in science. So they have this selection they need to read, and then they need to answer the questions and go through. There's a video built in. They can listen to it. There are questions, I believe, popped in there. I can turn closed captioning on if I want support. I can have it turn up the volume. That's why I didn't hear it. Then continue answering the questions. Their short answer. So essentially, the teacher is building out this activity. This is a labeling activity. So I would write for number 7, it looks like rain. I'm using the vocabulary from up here, well, precipitation. And I'm writing that in. Each of these is a question that will be scored or given feedback on. Down here is a matching activity, which I didn't follow the directions for. So I find lakes, okay, and then I didn't. Oh, precipitation. There we go. That one's precipitation. And then it's going to reveal a hidden picture, which is pretty fun. And then it says, you have responded to 5 of 13 questions. 1 does not have any content. So it's warning kids if they only hand in a part of it, that's not going to work. All right, so let me jump back to my screen. So now in my teacher screen, although I'm not sure that I opened that for you, I'll be able to see, oh, here's Cole's progress. He stopped here. He essentially did nothing in that space. So he only did 1 question. So that will give you that immediate feedback you want to see how students are doing with the tasks that you create. And just like all the other platforms, there are a number of pre-built things that you can use and share with your students. All right. We have been sharing and hearing a lot about Flipgrid. I'm sure if you're on Twitter at all, you might have heard about Flipgrid. Flipgrid is now a Microsoft product. It is a way for you to capture snippets of video, share video in short bursts, digestible bursts, and your students can also record themselves or their work. Sometimes students don't enjoy being on camera, so there are built-in things like little stickers they can put over their face and things like that. And there's a sample grid. Essentially, you build out a grid that you ask for responses for. You give a little bit of a prompt. Hey, tell us what you've been learning thus far in the learning event. Your students can click record a response. This is the deal. They do have to log in with a Google account or with a Microsoft account to be able to record. And here I am. We're going to give permission to my video. We're going to say, so here's that thing. If I don't want my face, I can blow this up if I'm not comfortable. And I can say 3, 2, 1. And I don't know if you can hear this, but hey, I'm really enjoying this session so far. I hope these teachers love all these distance learning tech tools. And now I'm done. Next. You can hear this, but hey, then really I can preview it. So I hope these teachers love. And then I don't want my selfie on there. The selfie is like the still image. I got my glasses. And now they can display their name a certain way, add a title or a link, and now I'm ready. So now there's 2. So you're essentially going to be gathering all these little videos. We are running Flipgrid sessions from the IU with Kevin Andreo. So check out our calendar of events coming up for that. If you would like more personalized learning around Flipgrid. But it's got lots of possibilities and a fun way to mix it up for sure. If you have a bank of reliable videos that you like to turn to, if your students enjoy learning through video, Edpuzzle is a great tool to help keep them on task with that and to weave assessment into it. So Edpuzzle has a library of videos from YouTube, Khan Academy, National Geographic, a number of well-established video collections that you can choose a video from. You can crop it. So maybe you found a 14-minute video, but only the first 6 minutes are what students need. You can crop it down. You can annotate it. You can add your own voice notes. So at minute 4, if you want to say, guys, really pay attention to this. You need to know what's happening right now. You can do that. And then you can also insert little quiz questions throughout the video. Edpuzzle links to Google Classroom as well, so you can push out Edpuzzle assignments right to your roster, and it will then track student progress through the videos. So you'll be able to see, oh, you know what? Damien only watched 2 minutes of this 4-minute video, or so-and-so never clicked to open this video. So it'll give you a better idea of how students are progressing through that. There is a Chrome extension as well, if you're someone who's comfortable with Chrome extensions, where if you find a video online, you can just click that extension and it will send it right to your Edpuzzle account so you can build an assignment from it. So there are a lot of links available there to teach you Edpuzzle. And it is, I think, if you're someone who's invested in using a lot of video in this experience, distance learning, this would definitely be something that I would add to your toolbox. There are about 2 more, I say that, but I just never know how many are left. Nearpod, and the next one, kind of Pear Deck. These are some interactive student response media sets that you can use. Nearpod has an add-on for Google Slides, as does Pear Deck. There are free versions of both of them available. They have temporary free access for school closures as well. But essentially in Nearpod, you're taking students through an activity where they are giving, and I'm not sure, here's my example. Here's an example. They have tons of different formats. It doesn't have to look like slides or anything like that. Try our collaborative activity. You're in one now. Ask a question and hear from every student. Students can respond with text or images. Respond in the box below to see your ideas appear. So hello. So Nearpod can be, Nearpod can be anything from asking your students, how are you feeling today? Sticky notes to shared sets of slides. It'll take you into things that are student self-paced, or you can set up the pacing if it's a synchronous lesson. Here's a lesson library you can check out. Here's Top Math. We'll see if there's any freebies here. Numbers and operations. Let's check it out. Grades 3 to 5. All right, some of these have money attached to them. I did not pay for a subscription, by the way. I know a lot of schools do, but I can preview it. So this is a Nearpod skill builder. They get their objectives, they get a warm up. So it's taking them through. This is what they'd see on their activity. Watch the video and follow along if you can guess the number. If needed, pause the video and do the work in the space. So it's like a little teacher with them in the slide, helping them through that. So there's different skill builders and all that kind of fun stuff. There's media built in. So similarly, Pear Deck. Pear Deck can work on its own, but I mostly use it with the Google Slide integration. They have templates as well for a number of content areas. This math template is free. It will work with PowerPoint. It will work with Google Slides. And the only difference here is that students will need to log in to a Pear Deck with a code and then log in with a Google account as well. So I'm just closing a bunch of these tabs because I have a lot going on right now because trying to make a copy of things. So here is my math template. So when students are viewing this in student view, it will take them through. You can put a story problem there. They choose an option. There's some, it says at the bottom, students drag this icon. So when they're viewing it, they'll actually interact with the content on the slide. Students draw anywhere on this slide. So that's what these templates provide you, a starting point. You enter the content. This one even has a Desmos calculator associated with it. So that's just a simple math template. And when you're in Pear Deck, let me present with Pear Deck. And I will absolutely go about 5 or 10 minutes over. I apologize, but if you want to leave, feel free. This is being recorded. So I'm going to start the lesson because the next thing, I'm going to do instructor paste. The next slide that I'm going to run to is the one that's interactive. So this is what the students would see. You would have a student join. So students would join here. Actually, I'm not going to show you that. You could do this from your device, joinpd.com. Well, maybe I'll do it from Cole's device. It's always fun kind of demoing from both sides. Here's joinpd.com. So we need XRRJN. XRRJN. So now he is in. He is waiting for me to start the activity as the teacher. And I'm feeling good. Thank you. And now I can see this. All right, I'm going to start my class. I'm going to go to, let me see if I can jump to, I want to get to that slide that has the Pear Deck template, of course. Here. So now when he is viewing it in student view, and if I've been lecturing for 5 minutes or presenting content, I could say, all right, kids, I want you to do this slide. It says drag the icon. So how am I feeling right now? You know what? Feel pretty good. Understand. And on the teacher end, I can see where my dots are going. So I can review the student responses right here. So I'll see where all my little dots are in real time. So Pear Deck is a pretty slick tool. Yes, I will leave that. All right. So just again, there is a lot of power in the community of these tools. There are rich collections of resources shared by other teachers. Don't feel like you need to recreate the wheel or create something unique for every single standard that you're working to address during this time. So my assignment to you in the next couple of weeks is to just play with some of these tools. Choose one, choose two that you really thought were interesting and that your students would enjoy, and build assessments for them. Try something out. Start really slow. There's no pressure to like reinvent the wheel right now. But if you need something interesting to throw their way, something different, capture their attention or gather some feedback about how they're doing, one of these might work great for you. So again, I showed you a lot because I always err on the side of giving people more resources than they need, at the risk of overwhelming you. But I want you to just to reach out to us at any time if you need anything. There's the link again for these slides because that's where all the embedded resources are. So make sure that you have that. I'll put it in the chat box as well. Thank you, Andrea. Have fun at your next meeting. We're in our days of Zoom meetings. It's good times. And please, if you are here today, I'd love if you could fill out the feedback session, bit.ly/cc virtual feedback. We have, I can't believe we're even doing so many sessions and all of you are being so gracious and coming. We have 350 or so people have completed our feedback form. So we're so happy that you're taking advantage of that. It's bit.ly/cc virtual feedback. And tell us in that form which sessions you'd like to see coming up. We would love to offer exactly what you need coming up. And you will receive Act 48 credit for attending our sessions or for watching the recordings on demand as well. All of our sessions are shared on the Core Connections to Virtual Learning website. We are constantly adding new content. Visit us at bit.ly/cclearniu14. And there's a catalog of both events coming up and also a whole section of on-demand recordings that you can now view that we've already recorded. So thanks again for joining me today. Apologize for keeping you over 5 minutes. My email is lynnhill@berksiu.org, and I'm on Twitter too, if you want to reach out and say hi. But I didn't see any more questions coming through the chat, so I'm going to end our recording now, and I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you again at the next session.